Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another session of Insider Secrets. And you know that's brought to you by My Core Intentions, right? And so the question I always ask every week, and you really should be starting to get the point taken well, is what is your intention? What's your desire? Are you crystal clear on your why? My core intentions, we always talk about the fact that if you're crystal clear on your why, the how is going to naturally happen. We're going to have a guest on today that we're going to talk to that really is clear on his why, and he's really clear on how it happens as well. So I'm looking forward to that. John, why don't you say hi real quick to our listeners?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Great. Glad you're here today, John. But My Core Intentions invests in our clients' future in an educational platform and a teaching and coaching platform. And the big thing for you is what we try to do is we work with you and teach you how to create more short-term cash flow and long-term wealth, while we empower you to execute real estate principles and sound strategies. And we do that while teaching you and helping coach you to live a more balanced lifestyle. One thing we all know about the real estate business is that our lifestyle can get out of balance, and it happens very easily. I think we're going to talk to John today a little bit about how he keeps his life in balance as well. So let's get to it. I'm excited about our guest today. I am joined by my friend and real estate syndicator investor from North Carolina, John Hamilton. And John was born and raised in South Florida, attended Florida State College. He went to school for pre-med, wound up enlisting in the Air Force in 2009, achieving a lifetime goal of being a special operations pararescueman. John is still on active duty. He was deployed, though, multiple times during his military moves. He started acquiring single-family homes and rentals. His passion for real estate grew as a result of that. Recently, he began to purchase multifamily properties to include small multifamily assets, which you know that we talk about small multifamily assets all the time, 2, 4, and 6 unit deals, right? His strategy around that is to buy and implement a value add strategy, a fix and flip strategy, and now he's begun the syndication business. He's with Amaton Capital, and they've invested over $19 million in real estate over the past few months as general partners and limited partners, applying some of the same concepts as from his 11 years of military experience and active team leader in his investment portfolio. His business ensures the right person for the right job. John enjoys life with his wife, Megan, as they're expecting their first child in mid-September. And I know John's getting ready for a move next week. So he said, don't worry about the mess behind him. But John, that's a pretty impressive background. And then the first thing I really want to say is thanks for your service. I appreciate that as a person who supported this country and what you do for us and still being in active duty. But thank you for that.
Yes, Mike, absolutely. We appreciate that.
And I'd like you just to say hi to our listeners, but here's what I want you to do, John, is in one word, I would like you to just say who you are at the core, personally and professionally. What one word best describes you?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mike. I appreciate it. And I look forward to this and to all the listeners out there. Appreciate your time. So I think one of the biggest words when I think of myself, it would probably be growth. Ever since I was a young individual, I always wanted to find a ladder to climb. And that's, whether I was, finding my next job that was, bigger and better, whether I was trying to grow professionally or getting better in school, where I was going to go. And that's what we like to implement in our strategy is growth and keeping a growth mindset all the time and keeping an open mind.
Yeah. What's interesting is every week I do one of these podcasts, right? And I think this is going to be like episode 28 right now. And every week I ask somebody that question, hey, what's the one word that exemplifies really who you are at your core? And nobody's ever said growth. So, I equate growth to a lot of things though, how we get educated and what we learn along the way. And education today is really powerful. The more education that we have, the more growth we can have as a result of that. But John, why don't you take some time and go through and tell us your backstory a little bit. Tell us how you wound up in the real estate business, and maybe a defining moment. What was really a defining moment that said, hey, I'm going to do this?
Yeah. Well, let's see, 2015, I guess it was. Actually, no, probably 2014. I had gotten into my first home, and I was in a military town. So there was a lot of rentals. I'd rented for a long time before that. And I finally got my home, and I loved it. I put a lot of time into it, had the nicest grass in the neighborhood. And I saw this development pop up down the road, and for $50,000 more, I got, I think it was about 400 more square feet, 500 more square feet in the house. Give me an extra bedroom, the fourth bedroom I wanted for friends and family to come over and hang out, entertainment. So I really took a look at my situation and was trying to figure out what was going to suit me best. And financially, I thought real estate was the way to go. Knowing what I know now, it was a great idea, but I really didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue. So I went and spoke with the people down there, ended up getting my realtor on the horn, spoke with her, said, hey, I want to buy this house, and it was going to be ready in like 2 months. And I asked my realtor, I was like, hey, what do you think I should do with this place? There's a lot of people in this town renting, and I've rented for a long time. So I think there's going to be potential here. And could you shoot me some comps? Let's see what I could rent this thing for. And she shot me back with like $1,800 a month. I was like blown away. I was like, oh my goodness, I can rent my house for $1,800 a month. That covers my rent. I get extra cash. This is amazing. And so I got online and I started looking around, and I found the first, what was it called? It was like How to Rent Your House or something like that. It was a booklet, and everything lined out for you.
An ebook, right?
Yep, exactly. And so I got on there and I read through this thing a couple times, and it was step by step. Okay, how do I pick an applicant? How do I do all these things? And I set those principles up for myself, and I followed each step as it was written out. And I found a great tenant that took over. One of them was a nurse, and her husband was also a fellow Air Force guy. And so I was set up, moved into my new place, and from then on, I was just like, man, there's so much potential out there to continue to do this. Let's continue this growth. And from then on, I continue to acquire smaller single family assets until I got up here to North Carolina and started dabbling in the multifamily space.
Yeah.
So.
Interesting. So was there a defining moment along the way that you said, oh, real estate is just the way to go?
Yeah. So I think the big thing was when I started getting into fix and flips. And fix and flips were awesome. And I really enjoyed it, but I was like, man, I don't know if this is what I want to do long-term. I'm getting slammed with taxes, and this, it's rough. Contractors are late, timelines are pushed out, etc. Well, little did I know, I come across syndications, and a good buddy of mine that was doing syndications, and he informed me of all the tax advantages.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, you mean I can invest money into a deal, make money on it, and then also utilize that to write off my income? And he's like, yeah. And well, I guess I have to caveat that with my wife is also a real estate professional. So I was able to capitalize on that as well. So utilizing that, we can write off the income. And from that point, I was like, man, this is awesome. This is astronomical. We're going to save a lot of money. We're going to make a lot of money. And that was my point where I was like, this is what we're doing.
Yeah. Good for you. Good for you. So, I think it's always something in somebody's life that all of a sudden you just go, man, I'm going to do this. I don't think anybody wakes up or is born into being a real estate professional or being a real estate investor. I think we just wind up going, something happens along the way. So what I like about your story is that you really started in the single family arena. and you've kind of graduated from there into small multifamily and gone into now syndicating deals, which is, takes you into a whole nother marketplace, right? But talk about that transition from, single family to multifamily. That's what a lot of my listeners on the call really focus on, is how do we go from, this single family arena to multi-unit deals. So.
Yeah, it's a great question. So we ended up finding a super cheap triplex on Facebook Marketplace of all places.
Okay.
And I had a buddy call me and he said, "Hey, look, let's look at this place." So we shot out to Greenville, North Carolina, took a look at it, and um, I just wasn't quite sure. I didn't quite have a good feeling in my stomach about it, and so. Um, long story short, we started doing the fix and flip and value add type strategy, I guess, if you will, into this. And we really loved the scalability of it. And from then we got a triplex and a duplex. And then now we have just networked and really dug our fingers into branding and wanting to get into the big multifamily. Cause I said, "Hey, I'm kind of done messing with these smaller units," and getting the phone calls from even my property manager of, "Hey, what do you want to do? We got these issues." Okay, cool. But let's go bigger. Let's go bigger. Let's get a property manager. Let's talk with asset managers. Those are the ones that are going to answer those questions. They know the business plan. And we're a little more hands off after we set up our business plan and structure our deals. So we just got really lucky, honestly. And we started marketing and got in with the right network, and were offered some opportunities that we couldn't turn down. And here we are.
Yeah, interesting. Now I know that Amaton Capital is the name of your company, and isn't one of your partners in the property management space? Is that who you partner with still, or?
No, so that's kind of a whole story in its own. But my partner and I, Greg, him and I actually joined the Air Force together back in 2009.
Okay.
After a few years, he had gotten out. His mother was in real estate for 25, but she's still in real estate, but at the time, 25 years or so. And she kept kind of poking him, "Hey, let's get into real estate." And after a really cool, I guess, life bout, he went and raced some fast boats for a while and did some cool things. And finally, I guess he realized it was time to settle down. so he actually got into single family homes, got his license, sold a few. He was a top realtor in his area in the first year. So year 2, he opened up his own brokerage, and now he owns Home Sales Palm Beach with over 40 agents underneath him. And gave him a phone call one day. I was like, "Hey, this is what I want to do. The business aspect of things and the tech and CRMs and platforms, and I know the market. So let's make this work." And so from then on out, we made headway.
Okay, great. So your property management arm, though, that is you partner with another firm. Is that right?
Yeah.
And they manage your stuff for you?
Yep. So actually, a current deal we're working on, we've had, again, networking has been a huge thing for us. The opportunities that were brought to us were through Integrity Holdings. They typically use an asset manager for their deals, and they're able to have them, work the business plan, have the property entirely managed, have their portfolio managed, and not be the one dealing with phone calls and taking care of those late night things that we don't want to hear about. Right. So they like to, I guess, do it in a unique way. They have specific teams built out to do specific things. And we know whether it's deal flow, property management, construction, they have all the pieces to the pie, and they bring them together to make the syndication team. And that's where I think it really has become nice for Amaton, because we're able to focus on our niche, and that's being able to bring equity to the deal to close the deal, while he brings his asset management team on board, or our asset management team, I should say, because we're a team, right?
Okay.
And that's how we're able to scale and make sure the business plan is followed out.
Yeah, good for you. I know a lot of people When I was owned all my property, I owned about 4,000 units, but we also managed another 5 or 6,000 units. So at one point we were managing and operating about 10,000 units.
Mhm.
And we did our own property management. And I know what you talk about with the plugged up toilets in the middle of the night and things like that, right?
Yep.
But when you grow a company that big, now you have employees working for you. In the beginning, it's a little bit more tedious, right? Because now you're taking care of everything yourself. So I think that from a standpoint, I like where you're headed with having a separate property management company, because that frees you up to do what you do best. One of the things I always like to talk to people about is living a more quality lifestyle and a more balanced lifestyle. And if you don't have to deal with those issues that come up as a result of management, even as simple as leasing a place or getting it ready to release it, and somebody else is taking care of all that and making all those decisions, it really frees your time up. So I want my listeners to think about both sides of that. See, one of the things I always teach people is think things through. Don't just make, we tend to make too many rash decisions all of a sudden. And if we think things through, and I like what you've done, because it sounds like you've really thought that whole piece through. Tell me about any current challenges right now with the environment. So, we are right in the smack dab middle of this. Hopefully it's the middle, or hopefully it's the end of this coronavirus pandemic situation, right?
Yeah.
Any current challenges in your business model today?
I would say the biggest challenge right now has been in our investor pool. Being a young syndication team, we have to prove ourselves a lot, and we got a lot of questions from people. And luckily, we're able to tell them that our team has over $100 million of assets under management, and our asset management team has 28,000 doors, to give a little credibility of what we're doing and who we're supported by. I think the biggest thing is being able to relay the right information to those investors to make sure that you're doing right by them, and keeping them interested in what's going on. And I guess the challenge with that recently has been everyone's moving away from the stock market. They want to be liquid, but I think everybody is questioning what's going on everywhere else, that they're not sure where to put their money. And they're being very frugal and very careful with where they put it, and making sure that people have the experience and the cash on the backside to make sure that the asset is being managed properly and safely, so that they get their cash and their returns. So I think that's one of the things we've seen has been just trying to keep the right investors together, and then not drying up our capital, by using non-accredited investors. They might be able to go in on 1 or 2 deals and then they're tapped out. So we like to continue to, offer the opportunity for the investors and network and build that. But I think the biggest thing starting out is definitely being able to keep your investors, or keep the capital available to yourself without.
Yeah. So that's interesting, because, one of the things I always teach is follow the smart money, right? So like invest where other people are investing, because that's the hot market right now, or maybe an emerging market, but follow the smart money. And I think if we look right now that a lot of the big players are just sitting tight, they're not dumping out of anything, but they are trying to buy. I have a couple of friends that are big syndicators, and they are actively trying to buy property right now, because there's some good deals out there. But I don't think that any of us really know where this market is going to go.
Right.
And we may not have seen the worst of what's going on yet, right? So we may be 6 or 8 months out from any type of default. But what's been interesting, and here we are right now in the middle of, or the end of August, going into the first week of September, and I have a friend who said that his July was the best month in the multifamily business he's ever had. So I find that interesting, because you've got people out of work and uncertainty in the marketplace, and people have great collections. Well, I think it's that people want to stay in front of it. and what's going on. So I think we're going to be in a good position though. And from a buying standpoint, if I'm an investor and I pulled my money out of the stock market and I put it on the sidelines, it's not doing me any good.
Absolutely.
And I pulled it out of the stock market for a reason, because I think that there might be something else better out there. So I think from a standpoint of a syndicator, we have to go out there and we have to show those investors, hey, this is a better alternative. Yeah, you're not as liquid and you can't just pick up the phone and get your money back, but you've got a security in this. And if you structure those syndications properly today, that you are in a much better position and you put your investors in a better position. What do you do in your business to attract investors or to talk to new investors about, investing in your syndications?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think that reflects back much on what really got me into real estate. And so we really like to bring the opportunity, especially with, Greg, my partner, being a broker and owner of a real estate agency. We like to share those tax benefits, because being a real estate professional, they're able to write off all their income through cost segregation studies on these large syndications. And I think that's the biggest thing that we like to inform people about, because that's a lot of money that people, are very stressed about at the end of the year, every 3 months, quarterly, whenever they do their taxes. But that's money out of pocket that they're having to pay. So I think educating them is probably one of the biggest and best things for us right now, and also them, obviously.
Sure.
We couldn't do this without them, so we need to inform them and know that it's the right thing for them.
Yep. Excellent. So if you, and I think Amaton probably has a plan right now to move forward. And what does that look like? So if you were designing a plan today, or, going to redo your current plan, what would that look like? What does it look like for Amaton?
Right now, I think we're still our company's still in a growth cycle. I think, we're still trying to network. We're still trying to develop our credibility, while being meshed in with these amazing teams that are granting amazing opportunities for us. So I think right now that our way ahead is just to maintain the credibility and bring value to these deals for these big syndicators. And we're not the big fish in the pond right now. We're not the Grant Cardones and those type people, but we're able to bring value. And I think that's the biggest thing that we're focused on, is how, as a team, can we be helpful to these people without being a burden, because essentially they're mentoring us on their own dime. We are bringing a lot of capital, to the deal, but at the end of the day, they don't need us. So that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to stay focused on bringing value to our partners and our mentors, to continue to grow and get in on the next deal. So, hey, in a year from now, we can go do our own $15-20 million acquisition, and be able to share the same things that these mentors are bringing and offering us.
Yeah. So I want my listeners to listen to what you just said, because I think that that's very key. You're not a big syndicator. You don't have a big company. You don't own and manage thousands of units. You're still building who you are and your identity as a company, right? That's what I always talk about. My first 11 unit deal was a nightmare, but my next one was 64 units and 87 units and 187. And then I was buying 300 and 400 unit deals. Mm-hmm. We get there over time. We don't go from owning a portfolio of single family properties to owning thousands of multifamily units like that overnight. It takes time. It's a progression, right? So we talk about how do you attract investors. One of the things I used to do was I had a seminar in my office every week for 2 years on Tuesday and Thursday night. And I put 20 new people in that room every week. And the business grew from there. So what I coach people around is let's get really good at the boredom things. So the things that are boring, right? The building the business. You ever see the Karate Kid? Wax on, wax off. That whole philosophy, right?
Yeah.
So the more we do the basics and the fundamentals, the more we grow. And I think that that's what you're saying is, we're building this identity, we're building our brand. In the midst of being with these other big players, we're going to emerge from this as a big player ourselves. And I want my listeners to hear that, because there's a long way for, it's that progression down the road, and it doesn't happen overnight. It does take time. Have you seen, overall, have you seen the rules of the game change in the last 60 days and the last 6 months?
I think the biggest thing that I've seen is we're making sure that our due diligence during our period is carried out very strategically, in the sense that our lease audits are, we're very strategic in it with the lease audits, and our asset management team is very good at picking out and making sure that our economic vacancy versus our true vacancy is the money's there to withhold the asset, right? So, our vacancy rate may not mean we have a good economic vacancy rate, because these people might be just paying their rents with the stimulus check that they got, or some help from the backside. But at the end of the day, when that dries up, are they truly able to pay their rents? So I think that is one of the biggest things that I've seen change, is to make sure, that the capital and these people's jobs are reliable, and that the tenants are reliable, that you're in the asset that you're purchasing. Because you might have a 96% occupancy, but if your economic occupancy is 84%, then you're not doing yourself any justice by purchasing that asset.
Right. And unless you have a good value add plan.
Absolutely.
So, you instill a good value add plan. I think that it is in your best interest then, because now you can turn that whole thing around.
Yep.
So do you like value add, or are you more of a more operational guy where, hey, we want to just buy something that we don't have to do a lot of value add to?
No, we're certainly in the value add field. The biggest thing I think that I look at too is being able to be funded, because the funding for 90% or above typically is what we're looking at. So being able to prove that to our underwriters, to say, we're able to pay our note on time and everything else. But not to say this last deal, the one we've got in Dallas going on, just got pushed another month because of COVID.
Okay.
But it is what it is. The rates are pretty low right now, so we might get a better rate. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
But
like the Dallas market?
Yeah. We're just, this one we're in right now is just northeast of Dallas, out in Greenville, right along I-30 there. So it's got a nice path of growth. People are commuting in and out of there to Dallas itself. It's quiet. It's quiet and quaint, but it's there's some big players out there. You got L3. And then there's another big distributor out there. I can't think of it off the top of my head right now, but yeah.
You mentioned stimulus check, and the question you got to ask is, how far can $1,200 really go? And they're saying that there could be another stimulus check coming, but even so, we've been 6 months on $1,200. That's not a lot for people. So obviously some people had some money put away on the side, or have done some other things, and you can kind of see how the environment is really changing. What advice would you give a new investor today, or an investor who is in the market, what to watch out for? What pitfalls might be coming up that they should look for?
Are we speaking like the limited partners, or what type of investors are you speaking of?
Your active hands-on investors, maybe the one who's doing a syndication like you are.
The biggest pitfall I think right now would be just to be careful of your occupancy and what type of tenants you have. Historically, I think we've been focusing on B-class properties, B+, and historically that's shown a very stable market throughout history. And that's why we choose B+. Your A+, A-, typically you're going to see, the higher rents, higher finishes, stuff like that. And they're probably the first the first asset class that people are going to start losing jobs, unfortunately, or pay cuts.
Sure.
And the C's, your give or take. And we've just seen trends on the B side that have been favorable for us. So again, I think that reflects back on making sure that your tenants are stable, that you have a nice area, as far as all your key indicators, right? I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Making sure that your income's right, your population's good, making sure the path of growth is right, and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So, you talked a little bit a few minutes ago about your due diligence process around looking at leases and really examining that. Talk about that a little bit more. I think due diligence is a big process that people sometimes take lightly and kind of blow it off. I know the first deal I did, I just listened to what the seller said, right? I didn't do any due diligence at all. So if I'm a new investor today coming into the marketplace, that's one of the things I really want to know about is I want somebody to tell me what to look for in that. Any insight around that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. A lot of people look at that initial offering memorandum from your realtor or from, if it's a backside deal, and they take those numbers and they run with them. You really need to get your true T12s from them, get your rent rolls, and sit down and underwrite your deal. And if you have questions, ask the realtor. Get as much information from that property as you can. If something doesn't make sense, get an answer for it. Hey, why was this consistently this much throughout the past 6 months, and then month 8, or there you see a big adjustment. Question those things and make sure you dig into those numbers to make sure it makes sense, and underwrite conservatively.
Hmm. And when you say conservatively, one of the things I always talk about is standards and having these systems and strategies in place that we follow, right? So, we talk about your perfect property, right? B-class property. I always looked at, I wanted interior hallways with pitched roofs and some brick on the buildings and something that could give me some aesthetics. When I was starting to buy 200, 300 unit complexes, I wanted gates and fences and things like that because I knew if I had those core things, I could go in and do more to the property to increase the revenue, right? What type of core things or strategies do you have that you don't waver from?
I think right now, like, we're looking at the interior finishes are a big one. Maybe just being able to put cabinets and stuff like that in, but I like the opportunity to hey, can we put shade structures out here for these individuals? Can we offer a spot maybe on the backside of the property to maybe put some garages if it doesn't have garages? Can we get this place more light because the families will feel safer at night being able to get in and out of their property? So those are just, we could be here for an hour talking about all the different things and possibilities, from pools to everything. So parks and
Yeah.
But I think those are the main things right now that we're able to focus on and add value, and make sure that our tenants are going to have a prettier place to live, once we're able to exit.
Yeah. So one of the things I really like to do and really gets me excited about the multifamily business is when I buy an apartment complex and I can go in and I can figure out an additional way to make money, right?
Mm-hmm.
That somebody might not have been doing before. I'll give you a real good example. I bought an apartment complex one time and I think there were 20 some buildings. Every building had 2 entrances. So, at one end and at the other end, there was an entrance. And outside those entrances, there's 4 parking spots. Well, instead of making those handicap, we made them rentals. So those first 4 spots, we charged $25 a month rent. So we increased the revenue about $10,000 a year. It was a little bit more than that, but it was around $10,000 annually, just from rental parking, right? And so do you have any good ideas on ancillary or amenities that you would put in or like to put in today in multifamily that will help increase value?
I think the 2 things, like I kind of alluded to, was probably the shade structure.
Okay.
If they're able to park their car under shade rather than a garage, it's a lot cheaper to go in there and put a nice shade structure over 10 or 15 parking spots, and then you move over and build your next one. you can increase potentially the rent of those parking spots, or the price rather of those parking spots
Right.
attached to the unit. Or, hey, maybe we need to upgrade washer and dryers. Maybe we can take out the storage closet that's there and put in 2 or 4 more washer and dryers, because these are all packed up every time we come in and we look at the property. So more people are able to do their laundry and stuff like that. We've looked at putting nicer furniture around pools, redoing the surfaces, making the property more aesthetically pleasing for people and tenants.
Okay, great. What new advice, John, would you give a new investor coming into the real estate space today?
Mhm.
As a investor, hands-on investor, what new advice would you give him today?
I think there's 2 ways that I look at giving advice. It's either because I've done it and wouldn't do it again, or because I've done it and it was successful. So um, I
You
guess,
pick.
yeah. So I've done it, and where I see this being successful is maybe invest in your first deal, and if you can get in with the right person that's willing to let you, as we say in the military, left seat, right seat. That's an airframe thing.
Sure.
You can kind of left seat, right seat the deal. You can see how the entire process from beginning to end works, what their value add process is, what their underwriting is, who's going to be managing it, all that stuff. While you're also getting paid to do it. You don't always have to go to these big mentorship programs and pay the $25,000 or whatever it is to be, to be mentored. And hey, like, you might get great feedback, but they're not going to hand you a deal. You still have to do the work. But mentorship is huge, whether it's paid or it's unpaid. Just make sure you're getting the quality that you want out of it for the value.
Okay. So, I think that it's important that we learn, success leaves clues, right? And if we mentor, coach somebody in our sphere of influence who we can learn from, it's important. And I think that's kind of what you said. Hey, a little bit on a lighter side. So I know you live in Southern Pines, North Carolina. You're moving in the next week here. Where are you guys moving to?
Yeah, so we just built a house over in Pinehurst, North Carolina. So
Okay.
not far from where we're at.
Big golfing community, right?
Oh yeah,
Pinehurst. Yeah.
we got all the courses here that you could ever dream of playing.
Favorite tourist attraction where you're at?
Whew, favorite tourist attraction around here. Well, I have to say there's a lot. This is a very big equestrian area as well as golf. So I think
Okay.
if I had to pick one of the two, I'm not a big equestrian guy, but I definitely like to get on the golf course and have a good time. So.
Well, I know Pinehurst is on my bucket list. So, how about favorite restaurant, favorite food?
Ooh, there's a lot of those too. I think in Pinehurst, Elliott's on Linden is probably the best. They got a phenomenal elk steak that they do occasionally at
Wow.
just to die for. Yeah.
Elk steak. Awesome. That sounds good. Is that like venison or is it kind of in a
It's kind
class
of
its own?
yeah, it's got its own little flair to it, I guess you could say. It definitely doesn't taste like beef.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, good. Well, like I said, thanks for your service. Appreciate you. Appreciate you today. Your insight. I know that you've been very helpful to my listeners.
hmm
And, do you want to say goodbye? Any last comments? If people want to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you, John?
Yeah, sure. So you guys can reach us at www.amatoncapital.com. That's Amaton, Amaton, and or my email address, which is john@amatoncapital.com. And I guess the last word of advice I would say is no matter what you do or what kind of coaching strategy you're into or enjoy, always give back. Because if you can give back, people are going to see that and they're going to be more likely to help you out, knowing that your values and your morals are what are driving you, and you're not a greedy individual. And I think that has really gotten us to where we're at today, is finding the right people with the right morals and values, and giving back as much as we can and being a value.
Yeah, very good. Very good. I think everybody somewhere, somehow in their heart, they have some cause that's important, whether it's feeding hungry children or homelessness or human trafficking, but how can we give back? And I think that that's a great way to leave this. So, John, I want to thank you for being here today. And to my listeners, thank you for being here also. And remember, we will be here next Tuesday again, but listen to John's advice about due diligence, about some of the ins and outs. And everybody can do this. You can make that transition from single family or small multifamily into the larger portfolios and the bigger properties. And it doesn't happen overnight. It does happen over time, though. And I'm glad you're here and look forward to talking to you all next week. John, thanks again.
Absolutely. Take care, guys. Thanks so much.